Hello.
Hi.
What's your name?
Sunny.
Sunny. I'm Sarah. I'll be your dietitian today.
Nice to meet you.
You too. How are you doing today?
I'm good.
You're good?
Yeah.
Did you have a nice weekend?
Yeah, I did. Just hung out.
You hung out? Sounds fun. Are you a college student?
Yes, I go to UK.
Are you a senior?
Yes.
I saw that written down.
Gonna graduate in May, hopefully.
What's your major?
Communication.
Very nice. What are you planning to do with that?
I want to be a wedding planner.
Oh, that's very fun.
Mm-hmm.
What made you come up with that idea?
I have a few girls in a sorority I used to be in that were in wedding planning with the communication major, so I just thought maybe that would be something good to pair with.
Definitely. I think that would be a very fun career, aside from maybe dealing with a couple bridezillas here and there.
Oh yeah, there's some crazy ones in the industry, definitely.
That's awesome. Okay, well, do you know what brings you in today?
So I recently went to the doctor because I was having severe stomach pain, and they told me that I had celiac disease and I had a vitamin deficiency. It was like, low levels.
Do you know what deficiency it was?
No, they didn't mention that.
They didn't really mention that? Okay, so they just told you that you were diagnosed with celiac disease. Did they go into any depth about what that really was?
No. They just ran some tests.
Ran some tests.
That's what the diagnosis was.
So. Okay, so do you know anything about gluten?
No.
You do? Okay. So basically with celiac disease, gluten is something that you're going to need to look out for. Gluten is found in wheat, barley, and rye. And we'll go over later what that would look like in some foods. But it's a protein, and since you have celiac disease, when you eat this protein, it interferes with the absorption of nutrients from food because the villi, which look like this if you look on this handout, the villi in your small intestines are damaged. So since you have celiac disease, they look like this. And since they look like that, it just makes it hard for your body to absorb nutrients because the gluten is interfering with it. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So basically, celiac disease, if you're wondering, oh my gosh, I have this disease, like this is terrible, it's not a big deal. A lot of people have celiac disease. It's around 1 in every 100 people have celiac disease, so it's pretty common. It's a genetic autoimmune disease. So someone in your family might have had it at some point. So it's nothing that you did wrong, nothing that you ate wrong in your diet that led you to this point. But basically, have you been having any, you said you had abdominal pain, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any other symptoms that have gone along with that?
Usually it's just bloating, gas, and
bloating
usually
gas.
Like some diarrhea.
And do you have those symptoms like throughout the day, or do you notice them more like after meals?
Yes, but both.
Both?
I notice them both times.
Okay.
Actually.
These are a list of some, and I'll give you this when you leave.
Okay.
These are a list of some of the other symptoms that you might have experienced at some point. And with a gluten-free diet, which we'll go over as well, you should be able to eliminate them pretty much completely. But the thing about celiac disease is if you have pretty much any amount of gluten, then those symptoms can be triggered. So if you think, oh, I'm just going to have a little bit of this or that would have gluten, then it can still have an effect. So it's not so much that if you don't eat a lot of it, then you'll get the symptoms. So you have to be very aware of all the foods that might have gluten. But that's nothing to worry about because it's not as scary as it sounds.
Mm-hmm.
But some of these other symptoms are things that might have happened or might happen as a result of vitamin deficiencies. And I know your doctor said that you were not deficient yet, but you were close to that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's good.
Okay.
Because if you were having, say you had a calcium deficiency, you could have, bone fractures and joint pain.
Okay.
So it's good that you came in today. And I'm happy that you're here and we'll be able to treat your disease before things get worse.
Okay.
So, did you have any questions just to start before we jump into things? Just about the disease that I haven't already talked about?
So how does this affect like eating out and stuff like that?
It can. There are a lot of ways to prepare so that you'll be okay. A lot of restaurants nowadays have started to offer gluten-free options, and they'll specifically put it on the menu because I don't know if you're aware, but gluten-free diets are starting to become popular with the general population. Are you aware of that? Yeah. So, not only do you have to eat gluten-free, a lot of people just choose to eat gluten-free. They think it makes their digestion work better, it makes them feel better. So a lot of times when you're out eating, you will see gluten-free options. And if that's not the case, then you'll have to do a little research of your own. But I have a website that I found for you that's on the back of this page that actually lists out a lot of the restaurants in Lexington that have specific gluten-free options. And I looked through it, and there's quite a few. I saw Chipotle on there. Do you like Chipotle?
Yes.
I know it's popular on campus.
Oh yeah, I love Chipotle.
Yes, so that's a plus. That's on there. So I'll show you that. But before we get into more specific like food options, you provided me with a 24-hour recall. Is it okay if I go through it with you?
Yes.
All right, sounds good. Okay, so let's see. At 3 p.m., it says you had Cane's chicken fingers. Did you have, those are fried, right? Did you have is it 3 or 4?
3. Yeah,
3.
I got the 3.
Yeah, and then did you get fries and the toast with that? Okay. Okay, did you have a drink with that?
Yes, it was lemonade.
Lemonade. I love their lemonade.
Oh yeah, it's my favorite.
Okay, and then did you have breakfast that day?
No.
No? Okay, that's fine. I know things can get crazy. Does that typically happen?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
With my schedule especially, I'll either forget to eat or it won't be convenient.
Yeah, I totally understand that. Sometimes I have my days like that and there's nothing I can do about it. Okay, it says spaghetti with meat sauce for dinner. Let's see, what kind of spaghetti was that? Was it what kind of pasta?
It was just spaghetti noodles.
Spaghetti noodles?
Yeah, I don't think it was wheat or
anything
like
special
that.
like that, yeah. Okay, and then with meat sauce, and did you have anything with that, like a side, or was that pretty much it?
I had the Caesar salad with that.
Oh, okay, I see that. Gotcha. What did you have to drink with that, if anything?
I had water and a glass of wine.
Water and wine, and then what was on the Caesar salad?
It was Caesar dressing, and then there were some croutons. There was no cheese or anything like that.
Okay. Croutons. And then Ritz crackers at 10 p.m. Approximately how many of those did you have?
Probably like 5 to 7.
5 to 7. Okay, awesome. So would you say this is a pretty typical day for you?
Usually if I start late, then I end up just packing in all the food.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's go through this a little bit. So, are you aware at all what certain foods contain gluten? I know all I told you so far was that it's found in wheat, barley, and rye, but that's pretty vague. Bread, that's a pretty obvious one. All bread is going to have some form of wheat, whether it's whole wheat or just enriched flour. So, looking here, your Cane's chicken fingers, the toast, that's something that would have gluten in it. You've got the fried chicken tenders as well. And then moving on to the Caesar salad, you had some croutons. And then with your spaghetti as well, you had noodles. If you look here, we'll go over this later in more detail.
Okay.
But a lot of pastas are main things to avoid because it's just too risky. The majority of them do contain gluten. So, also the Ritz crackers. Crackers are something else that will typically have gluten unless they are specifically labeled to be gluten-free, which sometimes they will be, which is helpful. So yeah, you know, are these foods that you might have a hard time parting with, or do you think that you would be able to make some substitutions? I know that Cane's is really tasty.
Yeah, I could definitely make some substitutions. I'm not really sure what I would substitute. Like for spaghetti, what's something that you would substitute like the noodles for?
The noodles? Yeah, there are gluten-free options of a lot of foods. You'd be surprised, you know, you just have to, you know, search around a little bit. I do believe that there are gluten-free noodle options and also soy noodles as well. So you can give those a try.
Okay.
I know that there's also, do you ever make sandwiches on your own, like at home?
Yes.
There's also gluten-free bread.
Okay.
I don't know that it's always the most tasty. I've heard that it's not. I've never tried it, but I heard it's not like a complete substitution. So if you try it and you find that you don't want to eat it, just let me know and we'll look into it more.
Okay.
But when it comes to most things, there are gluten-free options. Yes. So is there anything else that you would be concerned about as far as your diet? Something that you eat not every day, but on the regular that you might want to learn about?
So I know that there's a lot of wheat in beer, and I really do like beer. So is there like something that can be substituted for that, or just other gluten-free options?
Well, a lot of beers are typically, they are made with gluten. However, there are some gluten-free options for beer sold in America. I don't know specific brand names, but I can look into that and let you know. The good news is, you said you had wine. Do you drink wine often? Wine is pretty much always going to be gluten-free. And the same thing goes for almost every other type of alcohol. You know, despite that though, you do always want to check. You want to try to, you know, look into a little bit just to make sure, but beer is the only alcohol that typically will contain gluten. So just do a little research, find out which brands you can switch to, and that shouldn't be too much of a problem. Okay. So that's good news. Yeah, so that's your 24-hour recall. We'll move back over to this worksheet.
Okay.
So we went over a lot of the front. I showed you the symptoms. And I mentioned to you that eating any amount of gluten can damage the villi of the small intestine. So that's something that should vary to really pay attention to.
Okay.
So here is a list, and this will be, you can take this home and use it in your, you know, your grocery store search for new items.
Okay.
It's divided into safe to eat and what to avoid. So the good news is that a lot of things don't have gluten, basically. Okay. So if you're feeling overwhelmed at all about things that you might not be able to eat, that's the good news. You can still eat all fruits and vegetables, so that's a great way. You don't have to worry about cutting out too many nutrients, because those are very nutrient dense, as well as beans, seeds, legumes, nuts, potatoes, eggs, dairy, corn, rice, fish, lean beef, and chicken. Okay. So that's a pretty long list. Do a lot of these foods, do you have a lot of these in your diet usually?
Oh yeah, I love potatoes, and I am a sucker for dairy, so
great.
That's good.
That's good. A lot of people are a little more picky about stuff, so when they find out they have to cut something out, they panic. But that's very
picky at all.
that's great. You should do just fine if you're not picky. So those are the main things that you can eat. And then there are other grains that are gluten-free. So it's thought of that when you have to eat gluten-free, you have to cut out all grains, all bread. But it's just the grains that include the wheat and the barley and the rye. Okay. But you also have this list right here. And these have some weird names, but these are all just different flours and different grains, and they're all available at your grocery store. And so those you can use also for substitute flours for baking. Okay. Do you bake at all?
Yes, I do. I love to bake. So
love to bake sweets and stuff?
Yeah.
Awesome. So this is something to keep in mind as well. Okay. And these are all the list of flours you can use. Moving on to avoiding. I mentioned a little bit of this earlier, but most pastas, most bread, crackers, as well as seasoning and spice mixes. Okay. So that's a little bit of they're hidden as more in those.
Yeah.
Also, there's some more ingredients to watch out for. I mentioned rye, barley, and wheat, but you want to include oats as well.
Okay.
Do you ever eat oatmeal?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, that's another thing that's important to mention. Oats as well. And I think they do have some that are gluten free.
Okay.
So just that's something to watch out for. And there's a lot of ways that wheat can be hidden. And it can be named as wheat starch, wheat bran, wheat germ, cracked wheat. And that the way to look for that is just to look on the back, nutrition labels whenever you're shopping. And because that's not stuff that you're going to know off the top of your head.
Oh, yeah. No.
Yeah. So basically, I just made this for you so you can use it just to make sure that you're eating everything that you should be. And if there's anything confusing on here that you're like, I have no idea what that is or where to find it, then you can just contact me.
Okay.
And we can go over it. So basically, I'm your counselor. I'm a dietitian, but I'm also your counselor. So if you ever have any issues, I am the person to call.
Okay.
What I'd like to do now, well, first, do you have any questions? This is a lot of info.
So I've heard some rumors that if you don't eat gluten for a while, it eventually can lessen your intolerance. Is that true?
No, it's unfortunately not true. I wish that were the case. That would be great. But it's an autoimmune disorder, what you have, and your body's intolerance to gluten is not going to change depending on how much gluten you eat. There's no medications, no surgeries that can cure it, which is unfortunate, but luckily it's not such a debilitating condition. There's a pretty long list of things that you can eat, and as I mentioned before, I have that website on the back of this page that you can check out.
Okay.
And I have a few gluten-free friends that they don't see it as such a daily struggle, and it's important to remember that your symptoms should be alleviated pretty soon once you cut out the gluten from your diet. So it should be worth it, hopefully.
Okay.
Does that sound okay?
Yeah, sounds good.
Any other questions?
No.
Awesome. Okay, well, I'll leave these with you. I'll tell you what, before we leave, would you be okay setting like maybe 2 or 3 goals before we meet next?
Yeah.
Okay. I will just write these here on the back for you so you can keep.
Okay.
But before that, we want to try and accomplish a couple things. So what are some things that you hope to accomplish with your new diagnosis?
So first I would hope to be able to cut out bread completely because I do love bread.
You rely on bread a lot.
Yes.
Yeah, and those easy substitutions we talked about earlier. Gluten-free bread options.
Yes. Second, I would say to limit my beer selection.
Right.
And be more conscious of which beers that I do choose to drink.
Very good. Anything else?
Last would definitely be to limit my amount of fried foods, or at least make sure I'm eating at restaurants that have gluten-free options.
Awesome. Limit fried options. Well, those are some awesome goals. I think you seem very optimistic about your condition. I know it can be hard to hear something like that, but you seem that you've got a good attitude about it, so congratulations.
Thank you.
And I can't wait to meet with you again and see your progress.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming in.
No problem.